Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of FPL Fanzone. My name's Nick and in today's episode we're going to look at some of the dilemmas created by Game Week 1, injuries, minutes risks, transfer rumours, price drops and what that means for your team. Now please take into consideration as I talk through this, I'm going to give what I would do with this. This doesn't mean you should do that. Obviously you play the game the way you want to. I'm just another source of information for you to use to make your own decisions on this game. If you do find this video useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know if there's any other players that you want me to talk about that I don't, and I'll come back to you in the comments. But without further ado, let's get started. So what we have on the screen here is a list of some popular players and messages that I've had throughout my chats on the social media communities talking about the different types of players and potential risks within their team. So we'll start up first and foremost with Pedro Porro, $6 million midfielder for Tottenham. He was yellow flagged for this game week, so therefore people are worried about what to do. I had a look at Fantasy Football Hub and I've got here the expected minutes, the price, potential price rises or price falls, and obviously how many teams they're selected by as well. But looking at Pedro Porro, he's expected to get at least 65 minutes, so would suggest that he's okay. It was a bit of a knock and not a major injury, so certainly one to just keep in your team if you've already got him. I certainly don't need to be getting rid of him. I know his fixtures will get a little bit more difficult after the Everton game, but right now I'd certainly keep him for this game week before making any further decisions. Next up was the big enabler, Barco from Brighton, and at 4 million, obviously he in pre-season had lots of opportunities. He was on set pieces, and with Estupinian being out injured at the moment, we thought that he'd get lots of minutes in at least the first 2 or 3 games of the season. Now he didn't play game week 1. Brighton actually signed another defender in that spot, which is going to reduce his minutes risk, and there's now also transfer rumours of him going to Sevilla on loan for the season. So right now there's very little chance of him actually getting any minutes, and Fantasy Football Hub is only expecting him to get 6 minutes in the next game. He's 22% owned in the game at the moment, so there is a real chance of a price drop, although currently there's not really many places to go at 4 million, so he's at 27% towards that price drop. If that hits to 100%, and then he will go down to 3.9 million, which means that you can't move him on to anyone else. So something to just keep in mind, but right now he's certainly one that will need to leave your team eventually, but he's probably just going to be your 4th spot on your bench right now until you have, if you want to use a transfer. Personally, I wouldn't use a transfer. I would just have him as my 4th spot. If he was in my team, I would just leave him there until I wildcarded, whether that's whenever you're looking to do that. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't worry about him too much, as long as you've got cover, another defender that you can cover him as well. Next up is Garnacho. Garnacho only got 29 minutes in game week 1. He did come off the bench, did get an assist, missed a glaring open goal opportunity, but looked really, really lively. There's been lots of talk in the press this week that the coaches have come out and said how he's put in extra training in the sessions in midweek to work on his finishing. And looking at the Fantasy Football Hub predictor, 74 minutes this week, so it looks like he's going to get a start. So with Garnacho, if you've already got him in your team and 17% of players in the game have him, then you certainly keep him for that as well. Next up is Nkunku. Now there was a lot of hype about Nkunku pre-season. He scored a couple of goals in Chelsea's pre-season games. He's actually just scored again in midweek. But another penalty. So he's had 3 penalties now for Chelsea, but on all of those occasions, Cole Palmer wasn't on the pitch. This is a bit more of a tough decision at the moment. Nkunku's was an avoid for me, just because I don't know what's going on with Chelsea. They've got so many players. They could field 4 teams, and have a different team each week. with the amount of players that they've got in their squad at the moment. The fact that he played in midweek would suggest that he'll be a minute's risk for the weekend, in my opinion. But the Fantasy Football Hub have got him down at 73 minutes, so therefore they're expecting him to start. I understand, obviously, he's playing out of position as the striker, but for me, he's a bit of an avoid. If you've already got him in your team, I would just hold him for another week. If you've got a rotation player that you can bring in for him off the bench, but yeah, certainly someone that you would just keep for this week and then see what happens, and then make a decision with an extra week's worth of data what to do next week. Next up is Kieran Trippier, 11% owned in the game. Now he's obviously been linked with transfers away. He was looking to leave Newcastle in January, but that move to Bayern got blocked. He then had a real dip in form, and he's since subsequently lost his place to Livramento in the team. So he's now looking to leave Newcastle and has openly come out in the press. So the current rumour is that he's going to be moving to Everton. So he may stay in the Premier League, in which case certainly I wouldn't get rid of him. But he's also, just looking at the current predicting price changes, he's at 92%. So maybe within the next day or two, he's going to drop down to 5.9. So if you don't want to lose the 0.1 million, then you need to move sooner rather than later on moving him out. And at the 6 million, you've got options to go to Robertson, to Gvardiol, to any of the Arsenal defenders, Saliba and then of course move down to any of the others to free up a bit more cash anywhere else in your team. The other option is to drop him down to Livramento, who's taken his place at 4.5, who looks like a really good bargain now, and giving yourself an extra 1.5. So for me, if I had Trippier right now, my decision would be to sell, drop him down to Livramento, free up that extra cash that you can use elsewhere in your team in the next game week. Next up is Ivan Toney, and surprisingly he got 0 minutes in the first game week. Thomas Frank came out after the game in the post-match interview and said there's some transfer speculation, transfer interest for Ivan Toney, which is the reason he wasn't played. So he's already had a price drop this week from 7.5 down to 7.4, and is at 52% to dropping again. So that will likely to happen next week, especially if he doesn't play. And current rumour is that he's going to the Saudi League, so certainly one that needs to be coming out of your team, because that's quite a lot of money to be tied up, to just be sitting on a bench not getting anything. So if you've got Ivan Toney in your team, my recommendation would be to sell, but again, you make that decision on that as well. And then last up was the Kwanzaa quandary. Hooked off at half-time in the first game week. Arne Slot come out after the game and said it was a tactical decision because they were losing too many duels. And he didn't just say Kwanzaa, but they brought on Konate and they seemed much, much better in the second half. Now my gut feel is that he will be fine and will start again in game week 2. He's already had a price drop, so as always happens in game week 1, there's that fear and panic. So he's already had his price drop down to, so you've lost the 0.1 if you've still got him in your team. But if he was in my team, I would keep him. He's predicted to get 59 minutes in the next game, but he's only 4.7% owned in the game, so he is a bit of a differential and a cheaper route into that Liverpool. So I would at least give him one more week to see if he starts. If he doesn't start, if he's lost his place to Konate, then maybe look at moving him out from next week. So here's how my team is currently set up for this game week 2. And currently, as it stands, I've got no plans to make a transfer unless there's any last minute news that one of these players gets injured or isn't going to play. So I've got Flecken in goal away to Liverpool, not expecting anything there. I've got Saliba, Gabriel and Saka all playing away at Aston Villa. Now that's a tough fixture for Arsenal. They lost twice to Villa last year. So just being hopeful that our defence, being as good as it is, that there is a real chance of a clean sheet there, but wouldn't be surprised if Aston Villa do score. But Saka going forward, it certainly has opportunities for goals and assists there. My third defender is Gvardiol at home to Ipswich. I think that's a great game for Man City. Obviously, don't have Haaland in this team, so having Vardy there, hopefully they can keep the clean sheet, and he can maybe get a bit more of an attacking return, maybe an assist in that game to help cover the Haaland horror that may be coming my way. And then in midfield, I've got Saka away to Villa, Salah at home to Brentford, Gordon of Newcastle away to Bournemouth, and then Eze of Crystal Palace at home to West Ham. And I'm really happy with all of those midfielders. They all have reasonably good attacking fixtures, opportunities to score goals against slightly weaker defences. So yeah, the midfield looks really solid for this week. And then up front, I have Solanke of Tottenham at home to Everton, who looked really poor in game week 1 and still have a few defensive injuries at the moment. So hopefully some opportunities for him there. Isak of Newcastle away to Bournemouth, and again a good fixture for him. And then Muniz comes in for Bailey this week, who's got a home fixture to newly promoted Leicester. So again, a really good fixture there for the Fulham forward. And then on my bench, I've got Valdemarzen, who's the backup for Flecken, Bailey, who's at home to Arsenal, and then Harwood Bellis, who's at home to Nottingham Forest, and then Johnson, who's away to Man City. So he's firmly staying on the fourth spot on my bench. So as it stands right now, I've got no injury concerns. I think the team has good fixtures. Yes, of course, I've considered selling Salah for 5 million and trying to bring in Haaland for Solanke, but taking a -4 this early in the season doesn't seem quite right. I made the decision to go Salah, not Haaland, because it gave me more money than the rest of the team. So I'm going to stick with that, and let's see how we go when the game week comes on. So there will be another stream tomorrow that will go through some of my last minute thoughts, any sort of last minute news that comes through, if there's any team leaks or anything that comes out of the press conferences that allows me to change my team. But right now, that's how my team looks for game week 2. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of my team? Am I over-reliant on that Arsenal defence, especially with the Aston Villa fixture? Anyone that you've got in your team, or anyone that you think that I should be looking at potentially transferring? Have you got Haaland? Are you triple captaining him this week? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll come back to you shortly. Once again, everyone, big thank you for watching FPL Fanzone. If you've got this far into the stream and you haven't already, please don't forget to like. If you're new to the channel, smash that subscribe button. It really helps this channel out. And hit that notification bell to give you updates of new videos that are coming out each week. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all on the next episode.